This is the story of Abimelech, a man who seized power through bloodshed, but in the end faced God's unshakable justice. Listen closely, for this is a story of betrayal, prophecy, and a downfall so great that it still warns us today. In the days when Israel had no king, a man named Abimelech burned with ambition. He was the son of Gideon, also called Jerubbaal, the mighty warrior who had delivered Israel from the Midianites. But unlike his 70 brothers, who were born to Gideon's wives, Abimelech was the son of a concubine from Shechem. He was an outsider in his own family, and the thought of his brothers ruling while he remained in the shadows filled him with resentment. Abimelech wanted power, and he knew exactly how to take it. He went to his mother's relatives in Shechem and spoke cunningly to the city leaders, saying, "Why should you be ruled by 70 men when you can have just one, and not just anyone, but one of your own flesh and blood?" His words stirred the hearts of the people, and they agreed. They gave him 70 pieces of silver from the temple of Baal, money dedicated to an idol, now used for an unholy purpose. With it, Abimelech hired ruthless mercenaries, men with no conscience, men who would kill for coins. With his army of cutthroats, Abimelech marched to his father's household. There, on a single stone, he slaughtered all 70 of his brothers, one after another. The ground was soaked with blood, and not a single voice was left to oppose him. Or so he thought. Unknown to Abimelech, one brother had escaped, Jotham, the youngest. When he heard what had happened, he climbed to the top of Mount Gerizim, overlooking Shechem, and called out to the people, saying, "Listen to me, you leaders of Shechem, and may God listen to you. Let me tell you a parable." Jotham spoke of trees looking for a king. They first asked the olive tree, but it refused, saying it would rather produce oil that honors God and man. They then asked the fig tree, but it refused as well, preferring to bear its sweet fruit. The vine also declined, choosing to provide wine rather than rule. Finally, the trees turned to the thorn bush, which had nothing of value to offer. The thorn bush accepted, but with a warning saying, "If you truly anoint me as king, come and take refuge in my shade, but if not, let fire come from me and consume you." Jotham's meaning was clear. Abimelech was like the thorn bush, unworthy to rule, yet dangerous if given power. Then, with a final warning of divine judgment, Jotham fled into hiding, knowing that his words would come to pass. For 3 years, Abimelech ruled over Shechem. But just as he had betrayed his own brothers, the people of Shechem soon betrayed him. God sent a spirit of discord, and the city leaders turned against Abimelech, plotting his overthrow. When he heard of their rebellion, Abimelech struck first. He stormed Shechem with his army, slaughtering the rebels and burning the city to the ground. But his thirst for blood was not yet quenched. He turned his army toward Thebez, where the last of his enemies had taken refuge in a strong tower. Confident in his power, Abimelech approached the tower, planning to burn it down just as he had done in Shechem. But God had other plans. As Abimelech drew close, a woman standing on the tower's rooftop lifted a heavy millstone and hurled it down. The stone struck Abimelech's skull, shattering it. Knowing he was dying, Abimelech turned to his armor-bearer and gasped his final command, "Draw your sword and kill me, so they won't say, 'A woman killed me.'" The young man obeyed, and Abimelech fell by his own servant's hand. Thus, the man who had slain his brothers for power met his end in disgrace. His ambition, built on betrayal and bloodshed, had led only to destruction. Abimelech's desire for power was not wrong in itself, but his willingness to kill for it ensured his downfall. True leadership comes from service, not selfish ambition. Abimelech gained power through betrayal and ultimately betrayed himself. The very people who lifted him up turned against him, just as Jotham had warned. Abimelech's story stands as a warning. Power gained through wickedness will always crumble, but in contrast, Jesus, the true king, did not seek power through violence, but through sacrifice. His kingdom is not built on treachery, but on truth, love, and righteousness. May we seek not to rule over others, but to serve God, for in Him lies the only true and lasting kingdom. If you enjoyed this story and want more powerful Bible stories that bring Scripture to life, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Which Bible story should we tell next? Let us know in the comments.